Now, it's time for us to go on a little journey, and this morning we're going to Italy. And we're going to talk to Marco Colombo, who's a journalist and political analyst. Good morning, Marco.
Good morning, Patrick. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you are as well. Let's talk about what's happening with the new elections next month.
Well, Italy has managed to beat Britain to the polls. It all happened very suddenly, really, in July, to be precise, on Thursday, the 21st of July. I personally was on holiday. I was between Naples and Sicily. What happened? Draghi, the Prime Minister, who was put in charge of government by the head of state last February 2021, decided to resign. He decided to resign because he did not have the support of the majority. Initially, the Five Star Movement, which is a populist movement that got 33% of the votes at the last election in 2018, decided to pull out. So they decided not to vote the confidence. And then another two parties, Berlusconi's party and the League, decided not to support Draghi. In fact, what they did, basically, they abstained from the vote. So they didn't vote against him. So he got a very small majority of only 96 votes out of 300 in the Senate. And then he decided to resign, went to the head of state, and we had a sudden election. It's the first time we have election in September, because what it means is we have a political campaign throughout August, which is the month where every Italian goes on holiday. I'm talking to you from Tuscany, where I live. The beach are packed with people, and it's just crazy that we're going through a very important election, in fact, because this is the year that Italy should be receiving the European money, because we've been one of the countries most hit by the pandemic, of course.
Of course. So we all watched Italy go through the pandemic first, didn't we, really, for the rest of Europe? It's so interesting, Marco, when I have these conversations around the world at the moment, that it is very difficult to find a democracy that is stable at the moment. I mean, you know, our own Boris Johnson, at least Draghi has gone. You know, we've got Boris Johnson hanging on. We've got other places around the world where there just seems to be this dissatisfaction with the status quo politically. And also in America, of course, they've just got another party, and the same has happened in Italy, a new party.
Also France and Germany.
Yes,
I mean, France just went through the election, and the president, Macron, won with some difficulties, but then the parliament went a different way with Le Pen having the best success ever. And in Germany, you have to remember there's a big coalition where pretty much everybody's in the government.
Yeah.
To make it going. Clearly there is a discontent. You were having conversation earlier about the public pay cuts in UK. There's a big discontent. Clearly, the democracy, the West, is living in a moment where the pandemic, the crisis, the inflation is hitting the working class. I mean, in Italy, we're now talking about the working class poor, people that that won't be able to raise a child. My wife is an English teacher. She's a British English teacher, and we just about get by. So the problem is that the solution is this populist party. I mean, the election is likely to give another majority to a country that defines itself as post-fascist on the very year 2022 of 100th anniversary of the march on Rome of the fascists, which is kind of shocking, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Clearly, France and Germany are not going through such a period. It seems like the populist and party have in America, Trump, and in Italy, the right have a solution somehow. You have to remember that in this last 5 years, we had three different governments of three different colors, let's say. So the initial one was a very populist government, what we call Conte 1. And then the same prime minister had a completely different mix of parties, literally the opposite ones, having, the Five Star Movement, again, 1/3 of the electorate. And then we had a very, very different one with Draghi, who clearly was in charge of the Central Bank of Europe. He's the very man that saved the euro with whatever it takes, managed to get the 27 European countries together despite the previous crisis, the credit crunch. Sometimes, especially in Italy, people want somebody serious. And I think that's what they tried also with Boris. I was covering the election for Italian News in 2019. Yeah. I was very much in the Boris constituency, I remember, near Heathrow, and everybody loved Boris, and now look what Boris is. So it's very fast politics, I would say.
It's a very interesting time in politics, and a lot of it, as you said, is to do with this post-pandemic crisis that the globe seems to be in, the war as well. Let's not forget that in Ukraine. These are all factors that nobody could have foreseen. Well, apart from the Ukraine war, I think we perhaps could have foreseen that. But certainly the pandemic has hit all of these nations hard, particularly with the idea of recovery. So it's not really surprising that the public would blame an incumbent government for the situation they find themselves in. But is there a fear, like you mentioned there in Italy, we've seen it in France, where there is a knee-jerk reaction to the more extreme political parties?
Well, it seems to be the case in Italy. This one political party, again, we call them the post-fascists because basically they are the party that inherited that kind of tradition. They are they're likely to be the first party and get 25% of the votes. Right. In Britain, the electoral system is quite easy. You have two parties competing, and most of the time you have a solution or kind of like a general. Worst case scenario, you have a coalition government. Yeah. In Italy, there are some 20 parties taking part in the coalition. There are at least 5 parties on the right, 2 parties in the center, and another 6-7 parties on the left. It's likely that the centre right will win, and this party, which is called the Brothers of Italy, will have the lead, and they might appoint what in Italy will be the first female prime minister, a bit of a Thatcher. We have a situation where we have a bit of a Thatcher moment. It's definitely going to be a shock for Italy. It might also be a shock for the European parties we work with. But it's democracy. If these people have, she was the only. Giorgia Meloni, she was the only leader, the only political party that did not join the Draghi coalition. Right. So in one way, as you said, the people didn't see the solution solved with Draghi in a year and a half, even though yesterday we had some statistics. Italy is at its peak in terms of employment. Italy is doing pretty well in terms of inflation. Compared to Britain, we are 60% of inflation. Britain is 9%. We are, the GDP is growing 3%. And yesterday there was the record in employment since 1977.
Wow.
Tourism is booming in Italy. Still, some people are not feeling happy. And so every time to find kind of a scapegoat or a new political party, as they did with Berlusconi, let's try this one and see what happens.
And I think that people are prepared now, aren't they, across the globe to take a risk, to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They don't mind, if there is a bit of damage, because it's better than the status quo. And we've certainly seen that, like you mentioned, with Donald Trump.
Absolutely. It's a jump. It's a leap into the unknown. Also, for Italy especially, we are the biggest receiver of European money. We've always been, together with France, receiving a lot of money, especially for our agriculture. You have to remember that 50% of the money, European money, goes into agriculture, and France, Italy, and Spain are the main receiver. We are without the European money, we won't be able to survive. Italy is in a dire strait. Draghi was trying to straighten the budget. It's interesting time. Clearly, what these political parties are offering is like Berlusconi came up with the idea of planting 1 million trees, because Berlusconi is still part of this coalition. He's not the front runner. He's in mid-80s. But for me, that I've been following politics for quite a while, it reminds me in 1994 when this media mogul decided to launch himself in politics and was voted prime minister 3 times. He was only voted out in 2011 by Draghi, Merkel, and the European establishment, because Italy was sinking like a ship.
It's so interesting, isn't it, when the unknown appears to be better than the known, that people are prepared to take that risk. They're going, well, look, it can't be as bad as the known, so we might as well go unknown. There was a horrible... I found this so shocking. I'm sure many people did. This news reached us very quickly over the weekend about the Nigerian man killed in broad daylight, beaten up by a guy at a market stall for suggesting that the guy's girlfriend was beautiful. Is that right?
No, it's slightly more shocking than that. First of all, it wasn't a racial attack. And I'm saying this, having a black wife, a British black wife in Italy, it luckily wasn't a racial attack.
Yeah.
It's simply the guy was had been sanctioned before. It was basically a manic, violent person. And this Nigerian man, who was a father and simply was trying to raise some money. It was basically, I wouldn't say homeless, but somebody trying to get some pennies out of a bus buyer, got beaten up. What is shocking is the fact that people were filming on camera, filming with their phones instead of intervening. They thought it was just a scuffle. And the guy died. And this happened in the market, which is a holiday resort. The attacker has apologized. Clearly he's in jail. He has mental issues. The lawyer has declared yesterday it was not racially abused. It was not racially motivated. There was no racial abuse. It's nothing to do with the color. But clearly, it was shocking to see a man beaten to death on a pavement on the streets of Italy.
And like you said, it's the shocking indifference of the bystanders who chose their TikTok moment or their Instagram moment over helping this man who was in mortal danger.
Well, it's more shocking because something even more troubling happened a few years back. There was a guy that did a shootout just aiming at black people, pretty much in the same province. That, for instance, is a region that used to be what we call a red left region, the Marche region, and now has gone to the Brothers of Italy. So sometimes these political parties bring out a bit of anger and hate for the unknown. Again, this guy was a black guy. Clearly he sent a lot of shivers down the spines of many Italians. But again, it wasn't racially motivated. It was just a crazy man that just lost it. What happened a few months back, a politician shot a black man on the streets just because it was happening in a similar way. This was an elected politician walking the streets of Italy with a gun in his pocket. Similarly, a guy of color, probably not feeling very well, asked for some help, some pennies, and this guy just raised a gun and shot him on the streets. That was taken on camera, and clearly the politician is under arrest. But there's more and more of this kind of like American-style attacks, which are shocking. Italy, you have to remember, is a country that's experiencing migration very recently. I mean, we don't have colonies, so we had people coming in the 80s. My wife, she has her hair done by a Nigerian woman who came by boat with her children, and she gave birth in Libya. So we have these new people that clearly, we have no relationship with Nigeria whatsoever. They do not speak the language. But when I saw the interviews of the family, they were speaking English. Which is interesting because I was pointing to my wife. You see, even the family does not speak Italian. So there's clearly this kind of a culture clash as well as the color. But that's something that is going to be an issue because clearly the previous time the right was in power, we had this minister Salvini who decided to shut the port and literally not allowing migrants to arrive to shores. A lot of migrants died at sea. Only yesterday we had about 1,000 people arriving in the island of Lampedusa. So Italy is clearly a border country. There might be some security migration issue that will hit Europe as a big shockwave.
We're seeing a similar situation, and I'm sure you know, across the channel. Fascinating to talk to you, Marco. Thank you very much indeed. Marco Colombo, there, who's a journalist and political analyst, bringing us up to date with Italy and the goings on there. Right, stay with us here on Talk TV. Still got a couple of your calls. Hopefully you're still awake. Let's talk. 0344 499 1000.